The Oscars, the most prestigious, glamorous, respectable night in Hollywood, where only the best of the best are honored. Every year, another brilliant film is entered into the history books as the winner of the Golden Prize that declares them as the greatest film of... Oh, hold on. Sorry everyone. I've just been informed that all the films I've been showing in the background actually lost or didn't even get nominated. Huh. That's a shame. Those are some really good movies. Feels like we could give them something. What if we created a totally separate award for just popular movies? What's that? That's an awful idea and everyone hates it? Oh! Well, this certainly backfired. Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of ediTHORGIals, the show where I give you an op-ed on anything and everything from the world of geekery, and I've got to start off with a confession. Guys, I love the Oscars. Don't get me wrong, I know it's stupid. I know that trying to place a big gold prize on films that are incredibly subjective and meant to be interpreted differently by every audience member goes against the point of what art is. I know that. I also know that the entire system that they use to vote on these films is incredibly broken and has been since probably forever. And I also know that judging films on a yearly basis in no way dictates what films will go on to be great and which ones will be forgotten, and that as time passes, many of the snubbed films will be considered to be better than the films that won, many of which will fall into obscurity and in some cases even be negatively viewed by new generations of audiences and critics. I fully understand all of that. However, I also understand that whoever wins the Super Bowl probably isn't actually the best football team in the world. That doesn't mean that I still don't load up on nachos and buffalo wings and wave around my big foam finger on game day. I bring this up because recently the Oscars decided that they wanted to spice things up in order to counter their decline in ratings, so they were going to introduce a new award titled the Achievement in Popular Films category. And I wanted to come in here as someone who openly admits that he loves the Oscars and just say, that was an awful idea.
Yes, it's horrible, this idea.
And many people agreed. In fact, so many people agreed that the Oscars just a few weeks ago announced that they were going to cancel their plans for the Popular Films Award. However, this rather... what's a good word for pulling something completely out of your butt? Oh, desperate. This rather desperate attempt on the Oscars to increase their ratings still brings up something that I've been wanting to talk about on ediTHORGIals for a while. Also, I already wrote this entire episode out before they decided to cancel their plans for the Popular Films Award, so I didn't want to throw all of this out. You see, the Oscars are broken, and I know a lot of people are going to say, well, no duh, you literally opened this video up by listing several ways in which they're busted. True, but I don't think everyone out there fully realizes all the ways the Oscars are broken, including the Oscars themselves. Because with the Academy trying to implement an Achievement in Popular Films category, it shows that they're trying to fix their show without realizing what's really wrong with it. But let's start by examining what happened. The Academy announced a new award titled Achievement in Popular Films. Now, I won't go into detail about what that means, because literally no one knows what it means! But basically, they won this award to focus on films that received more recognition from general audiences instead of the critics. The best anyone could figure was that the more money you made at the box office, the more likely you were to get nominated. But was that going to be the only qualification? If the movie was terrible, but it still made a lot of money, like, say, a Michael Bay Transformers film, would it still get nominated? Or would all of the popular films still have to go through some sort of an approval system with the amount of money being earned being the qualification it needs to be considered? Or is there another qualification that you could meet to be considered for this award? Like, for example, look at Crazy Rich Asians. That movie at the time of this recording has brought in roughly $150 million, which is indeed a lot of money, but it probably won't be in the top 5 highest grossing films of the year. However, it was the #1 movie in this country for 3 weeks in a row, with its weekend grosses dropping between 5 and 10% each week, whereas most films end up dropping between 40 and 60%. That is indeed quite impressive, and it sure sounds like that means it's a popular film to me, so does that mean that it would count as a popular film even though there's probably 5 other movies out there this year that would end up making more money than it? My point is, there are several problems with the idea of implementing a popular movies award, so why did they want to do it? Because the ratings for the Oscars have been going down over the years, and granted, the ratings for almost everything on TV has gone down over the years. For example, from 2016 to 2017, the average viewers of each of the 5 major networks dropped fairly dramatically, with NBC losing 8% of its viewers, the CW and CBS losing 14%, ABC losing 16%, and Fox losing 17%. Those are some pretty alarming numbers, and most analysts have been saying for years now that TV as a format for delivering entertainment and news is eventually going to die in exchange for the internet. That's just what happens. It doesn't mean that shows will eventually go away, it just means that we'll watch them on our computers rather than on TVs. Heck, even the Super Bowl, the largest televised event in America, is at its lowest ratings in a decade. When the Super Bowl starts to suffer, then what chance does the rest of television have? However, as alarming as those numbers are, from 2017 to 2018, the Oscars viewership dropped from 32.9 million viewers to 26.5 million viewers. That's 20%. And that's just from last year to this year. Its viewership has been steadily declining for a while now, and with these numbers, it's actually at the lowest it's been in 44 years. So it's clear that even though television as a whole is seeing its ratings decline, the Oscars are suffering more than the average program. What could be causing people to lose so much interest in this award show? Well, there's honestly a lot to that. The first of which being that the show just, well, stinks. Yeah, again, I'd like to remind everyone, I just said I love the Oscars, but I'll go ahead and admit, it's a terrible show to watch. It's scheduled to go on for way too long, and somehow, no matter how much time they give it, it always manages to go longer. How do you manage to screw that up every single year? Statistically, wouldn't there be at least one year where you would wrap up and say, oh wow, we still have like 5 minutes to kill? Also, we don't need to stop for giant montages to tell us how great movies are. We're watching the Oscars. We know how great movies are. Listen, I'll admit, I love these montages. They make me feel all warm and fuzzy and tingly inside, but it ain't working for mass audiences anymore. I'm not saying stop the montages, keep them around, but for God's sake, spice them up. Every year, it doesn't matter what you're honoring. It could be a celebration of 90 years of the Oscars, great performances, great lines, great directors. You're going to play the exact same music and show the exact same clips every single year. Every year you do a montage, I could set my watch to how long before you show that Lawrence of Arabia clip. And yes, your orchestra is uplifting and wondrous and makes me go ooh and ah, and everyone in there is truly an artist, but I could take the last 10 years of montages, shuffle the music around between all them, and you wouldn't be able to tell me the difference. For God's sakes, get some R&B in there, put some funk in these montages, have Daft Punk whip something up one year just to freak everyone out. But no, that's not going to happen. The Oscars want these montages and this presentation to be exactly the same. And that's the big problem. Let's examine what I mean by that by finally deconstructing what this achievement in popular film category really means and seeing how it compares to how the Academy has tried to spice their awards up in the past. Now, it's clear the reason that they want to add in this category was to try and get more people to watch the show because they believe that people didn't want to watch an award show where they had no idea what any of the films being nominated were. And they have a point. I mean, you're more likely to go to a party if you know at least a few of the people there. But this isn't the first time the Academy has tried something like this. During the 81st Oscars back in 2009, there was a fairly large movement to get The Dark Knight nominated for Best Picture, which it wasn't, and people were pretty bummed. Instead, the 5 films nominated were Slumdog Millionaire, Curious Case of Benjamin Button, Frost Nixon, Milk, and The Reader. 5 films that are each of high quality, that are very well made, and do indeed deserve recognition, but they're 5 films that sort of aim themselves at similar audiences. And the Academy realized this might have turned off some of the viewers. So in order to counter this and try to acknowledge a wider variety of genres of films, next year they would increase the number of movies they'd nominate for Best Picture from 5 to 10. And the next year, yes, we still got the usual type of films that the Academy loves, the serious, dramatic soul searchers like Precious and Education, A Serious Man. But now, we also got the groundbreaking sci-fi film District 9, the massive blockbuster Avatar, the bat-crap crazy exploitation film Inglourious Basterds, and for the first time in decades, the first animated film got nominated for Best Picture with Up. This truly did bring a much-needed breath of fresh air to the Oscars. It felt like this award show was now actually recognizing different films and not just the same old, same old. And audiences realized this as the ratings for this show went up by 5 million viewers compared to the year before. That was more than a 10% jump. And the next year, yes, the ratings did drop a bit, but they were still larger than they were in 2009. And honestly, that was also the year that James Franco and Anne Hathaway hosted, so that might also have had something to do with that slight drop in the ratings.
I am 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon away from our next 2 presenters. Look it up on the internet.
What the hell was that?
But for the next several years after that, the Oscars did see steadily increasing ratings. So okay, nominating more popular films, different types of films, actually did help the Oscars ratings. However, here's where it starts to go downhill. Because the very next year, the Academy said that they would no longer nominate 10 movies for Best Picture, but instead they would nominate up to 10 movies for Best Picture. Basically, the Academy would have to vote on the movies that they want to be nominated for Best Picture, and rather than saying the 10 highest voted upon films would be nominated, instead, the 10 highest voted upon films would be nominated if they got a certain number of nominations. And do you know what happened? We just stopped getting 10 nominations. Not once since they implemented this rule have we ever gotten another year where we got a full 10 nominees. Heck, in the 87th and 88th Academy Awards, we only got 8. They couldn't even come up with a 9th film. And if you'll notice, it was around the 87th and 88th awards that we suddenly saw a massive decline in the ratings. Which leads me to the big problem with the Academy Awards. I've been reading off several statistics about the Oscars ratings, but let me read off a few about the Academy itself. Now, for anyone who doesn't know, the Academy of Motion Pictures Arts and Science is made up of roughly 6,000 professionals in the film industry. Whether they be actors, directors, set and costume designers, the list of professions that you can have to be considered for the Academy Awards is quite diverse. But that's the only thing diverse about the Academy. 72% of the Academy is male, 87% of them are white, and 2014, the last time that the age for the Academy was put on record, it found that the average Academy member was 63 years old. Now, I'm not saying that you can't be 63 years old and have your finger on the pulse of what's popular, and I'm not saying that all white men think exactly the same and like the exact same movies. But I am saying that the Academy thinks exactly the same and likes the exact same movies. You don't accidentally fall backwards into 3/4 of your 6,000 members being male. You don't let in 6,000 professionals and turn around and go, oh my god, over half the people here are senior citizens. How did that happen? No, you have to be invited into the Academy. And it's clear that over the years, the Oscars have gone from an elite club to a super elite club. The Oscars have spent decades digging themselves into a hole by inducting only like-minded individuals. Only people they know think like them about these movies. And as a result, you now have 6,000 people who can't even think of a 10th or even a 9th film worth nominating for Best Picture. Hundreds of movies come out every single year, and 6,000 people can't name a 10th film worth praise. That's a problem. The Academy needs to diversify. It needs to expand its reach. Again, I'm not saying that all white men over 60 think exactly the same. Heck, I'm a white man, and I doubt that the moment that I hit 63, I'll suddenly think Phantom Thread is a good film. God, I hope not. I hated that film. It was, you know what, I'm getting off topic now. Movies are art, and the whole point of art is for it to have an impact on you, for you to interpret it in a way that will cause you to have an emotional reaction. And everyone is going to interpret a piece of art differently, causing it to have a different impact on us, because all of us have lived different lives. We all have different experiences that have accumulated into the people that we are today, and that influences how we feel about the art that we take in. And the reason why the Academy keeps nominating the same types of movies over and over is because they have built up over 6,000 people who have pretty similar taste in art. Heck, there are many Academy members who will flat out admit that they don't even watch half the screeners that get sent to them because they already know what film they want to win. And nobody seems to care about that because, hey, we all know they're just going to vote on the same film over and over again anyway, so what's the point if they don't watch all these screeners? And that's what has led us to the Achievement in Popular Film Award. The Oscars realized that they needed to honor a wider variety of movies, and their solution was to create a kiddies table, a participation trophy of sorts. And as I said, so many people were opposed to this that they had to cancel it, and I'm glad that they did because this isn't the answer. Create a popular award isn't going to recognize different movies, it's banishing them to the Phantom Zone. It's saying, hey, we don't have to give them a Best Picture nomination, they've already got their own special table right over there. And the amazing thing to me is that everyone seems to know that. Everyone looked at this and they all came to that same conclusion. And I think I know the reason why everyone realized this. If they had done this any other year, it might actually have worked. It might actually have slipped under a lot of people's radars. But you remember how I said that the Academy created the 10 Best Pictures nominee rule in response to the movement of people mad that The Dark Knight didn't get a nomination? Well, earlier this year, Black Panther came out. One of the highest rated movies of the year. One of the best performing movies of the year. And a movie that had a huge cultural impact, especially on the African American community. It is also a superhero movie, so there was no way in hell it was getting nominated for anything beyond the 2 Sound Awards and special effects. However, yeah, remember all that stuff that I just said about cultural impact, the boatloads of money it made, the critical praise? That was enough to get people talking about it possibly being nominated for Best Picture, and the Academy realized, oh crap, either we get a lot of people mad at us, or we have to actually, gulp, nominate a superhero movie for something. At which point, someone in the Academy stood up and said, hey, I have an idea. What if we just made a separate award just for them? Surely no one would get mad at that, right?
There's no campaign for popular film. Right. Like, if it's a campaign, it's for Best Picture, right. and that's all there is to it.
The problem with Black Panther is that many people in Hollywood thought it had a legitimate shot at Best Picture this year. So by creating this separate category for popular films, there's the fear that it's going to be put aside and not considered for the main award.
Because what you're now doing is giving out fake awards. You're giving out fake awards. Hey, Black Panther! You weren't actually good enough to win an Academy Award, so we're going to create a category just for you so we can give you an Oscar. So it's useless.
No, I like things that are popular, but it used to be that the Best Picture was also a popular picture for years and years and years. And I think that a new category kind of makes the Best Picture category seem less best.
Oh, this category is going to kill everybody.
Now, let me go ahead and address something. You all know me, and you know that I love the Marvel films. However, honestly, I wouldn't nominate Black Panther for Best Picture. I liked the film. I liked it a whole lot, but there's already 10 other movies that I've seen this year that I like more than it. However, I am not the majority of audiences. I am not the majority of critics. I am just one voice, and if I was put on an academy of 6,000 other voters, I'd hope that 5,999 of them would have different opinions from me. If I was put on the Academy, I would hope that I wouldn't show up and see that 90% of everyone else there was just a different version of me. However, I will give the Oscars some credit here, because even after they dropped down from 10 nominees, we've still been getting some very unique films nominated for Best Picture. Get Out, Mad Max Fury Road, Shape of Water, these are all films that have either been nominated or actually won some of the major awards. There are unique genre films still being nominated, but they are still few and far between, and my fear is that the moment that you tell the Academy, hey, we now have a special place for these popular films, the odds of them getting the big awards will go right out the window because, hey, now we have this special booth for them right over there in the corner. Shove them all over there so that the rest of us can enjoy the other 95% of these movies that we always nominate. As I've said, if you want to see more diverse movies being nominated, you have to diversify the Academy. You have to get people with different tastes and different backgrounds and different ideas on the Academy. That's how you change these awards. The most popular award would have been a Band-Aid, and the Academy doesn't need a Band-Aid. It needs extensive surgery. But again, I have to give the Academy credit for something here. The most popular film category was a desperate reaction. It was them scared about their dropping ratings, so they came up with whatever they could, threw something random at the wall, and hoped that would plug up that hole. And the reason why I'm so ticked about is that I don't want to see them trying something like this again in the future. But there's something else that they tried this year that wasn't nearly as talked about, but it actually fills me with some hope. This year, the Academy also invited over 900 new members to join their ranks. And I'll admit, I didn't scan through all 900 of them, but out of the ones who I did look through, there are a lot of women being nominated, a lot of people of color, a lot younger people being nominated. This will provide new voices in the Academy, and when you give new voices a chance to be heard, it will lead to different types of films being nominated. That is how you're going to fix the Academy. Now, granted, that's not going to be a quick fix. It will take many more years of expanding the Academy to slowly rebuild this audience for this award show, and even then, you're still going to need to spice up this boring show. Seriously, do something about those montages. But it's a start. It's hammering down the first few floorboards, and after several years, you will be able to rebuild something on top of that. Then again, after a couple of years, the range for television shows in general will have declined to the point that you probably will have to change this entire show completely anyways in order to now adapt it onto the internet. So all this could have been for nothing, and I could quite possibly have just wasted half an hour of everyone's lives with this episode of ediTHORGIals. That seems like a good point to go out on. Thank you guys for joining us for another episode of ediTHORGIals. Remember, we do these every single month here on this channel, but we also do movie reviews every single weekend. So if you want to check those out, then make sure that you hit that subscribe button. If you want to check out the last episode that we did of ediTHORGIals in which we talk about Sony and their Spider-Man situation, then that should be popping up right over there. And also, if you like this episode, then make sure that you give us a thumb up and share us around the web. It is the best way to help this channel grow. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Come back next time.